Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to the weekend. Finally made it out here to the weekend. It's December 28, 2024, 12:17 p.m. California time here. Latest activity on the earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.3 earthquake into the Alaska area. Also, some newer movement down here into the Tonga Trench once again, with a super deep 5.5 earthquake here. 342 miles deep there. That's pretty deep into the subduction zone. As far as the largest activity overnight, I believe, let's see here, that is going to take the top of the chart so far for the largest and latest earthquake. Number of fives overnight, and yesterday, of course, we had that swarm of activity across the western Pacific. Things have somewhat settled in a little bit across this area. No new larger movement here to report across the area I was watching, but that's still obviously some concern. So yeah, it looks like things have died off here tremendously from yesterday's activity, with potentially a readjustment back here across the plate boundary to the south. Now, New Zealand area, looks like some older movement there from yesterday. Also, one new earthquake today, a little three-pointer down there. Nothing big going on there across the area for now. A lot of the activity stirring up here across the eastern Pacific. That includes California, the Middle American Trench down here as well. If you look here on the Earthquake 3D globe, there's actually a four-pointer down here south of New Mexico, Arizona area. And also a three-pointer down here in the Pine Valley area. So we're looking at things on the elevated side out here across this region today. Let me go over to the EMSC model and I'll show you guys that four-pointer. Because the USGS, sometimes they'll report it, oftentimes not. So we'll take this out and zoom in here to their map. These guys are trying. I like the old map that the EMSC used to use. A little bit better quality. But there's that four-pointer striking near Sonora, Mexico, down there south of the border. And it's, just an obvious sign here of plate stress in the region. Not too often do we see earthquake activity inland like this away from the plate. So we have that activity stirring up down here. Elevated activity out in western Texas. And, of course, recent activity with the three-pointer down in Pine Valley area is one of the latest quakes here today so far as well. There is, let's see here, Goldfield's still swarming out in Nevada. That 3.0 was down here across the Pine Valley area. Outside San Diego, it's been a little quiet out there in San Diego recently, almost like it's non-existent for them in terms of earthquake activity, but don't get that false impression there. They can see some big-time earthquakes. We checked that out a couple weeks back there, but these guys have a history of large earthquakes. It's just been very quiet. This three-pointer coming in, oh man, it looks like it's off of the Elsinore fault here, which is a pretty lengthy fault that runs into LA, down south here of the border. A number of different faults sit around the Pine Valley area and the mountain ranges here, but not showing anything specific there on the map in terms of what fault system it is. But it's an earthquake, and about 9 miles deep there for that three-pointer. No further activity to note there in that region. I guess the latest quake following that movement going to be a little 0.7 further up north. So the strain is out here in general across this area. We just really haven't seen a whole lot of migration northward along the plate boundary of the San Andreas Fault for now. But there is a little bit of movement in the upland area, Corona, east regions of the concrete jungle out here. Mainly smaller earthquake activity in the one range, but there is a slight uptick out here today across this region. No major swarming across the San Andreas Fault for now. The Imperial Fault, that swarm that we had yesterday early in the morning, has dissipated, and no further earthquake activity noted there for now. There's a continued swarming out there across western Nevada and around that 5.7 earthquake area that struck back there a couple weeks back outside the Yerington, Nevada area. Northern California, let's see, one more earthquake after midnight. This is going to be a 3.2, still active out here. Look at the seismograph stations there. It shows periodic small quakes, these little spikes here. Sometimes they're a little bit bigger, and the bigger ones above a 2.5 or so, or even above a 2.0 magnitude, will show up on the nearby Dinsmore station. That Dinsmore station sits back away from this area. Petrolia, very close to all this earthquake activity here recently in Northern California. Dinsmore, further back by, I don't know how many miles, but it's a little distance here. So that's why we're not seeing a lot of the little earthquake activity showing up on that station. But it is earthquake activity, and I keep saying this because these guys have not reported all the earthquake activity that's been taking place out here since that seven pointer here a few weeks back. One earthquake way north of Mount Shasta around the, oh man, what lake is that? Miss Lake? Meese or Miss? I've never even heard of that. I live here in Northern California myself. I've probably been up there because I normally take this route here if I'm looking to go to Klamath Falls area. So I've seen it. I've just never really paid attention to that. Little 2.5 out there. Well north of Mount Shasta, not associated with the volcano. The Pacific Northwest, nothing being reported, but it is the weekend. The USGS normally does not show the smaller quakes here on the map until they get in the office Monday morning. Depending, they don't have the day off, and then they'll report any earthquake activity that occurs out here. Now, it's got to be above a certain level, a certain threshold, a certain magnitude there to be triggered here on the map, but nothing showing up there for now. Yellowstone National Park, let's go over and check out the latest overview here of Yellowstone. And it looks like some wind events out there earlier this morning and currently taking place there around several seismograph stations out there. Not seeing any elevated earthquake activity. In fact, really not seeing anything of any earthquake activity across Yellowstone. Just some wind that stirs up out there. And that, being exposed to the elements, the seismograph stations are known to pick up that environmental noise. A couple earthquakes there in western Texas, actually somewhat elevated here today. 33 earthquakes in the last 24 hours of various magnitudes. One outside of Snyder, Texas, a bunch by Big Spring. This is just a massive area of oil fields, the Permian Basin region. Big time oil, big time money out there in that area of Texas, and earthquakes. Nothing going on across the eastern portion of the country. And the Atlantic Ocean, goodness, it's been quite busy here in the last couple days or so. Started off here in the north around the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Actually, there's been some activity way up north here around the Arctic Circle. Seems like it's worked its way down to where we're at right now. This is the latest quake following all this movement here in the last couple days in the Atlantic. 5.5, or 5.3, excuse me. Way down south in the southern Mid-Atlantic Ridge. The great oceanic rift boundary out here. Separation of the seafloor. When that happens, a lot of times the strain can go either way here. We could see elevated activity out here within these plates, or we could see an elevated uptick across the North America, South America area. Remember, these are divergent boundaries, separation here, and fracture zones that over time have separated the continents. I mean, we learned that in grade school. And, of course, earthquake activity here. Seems like when things really get going out here in the Atlantic, things start to kick up around the globe, kind of like they have been in the last couple days. So we'll continue to watch it. Nothing big playing out right now, but it could happen at any given time. So we watch the West Coast here with that elevated activity across this specific region here. Middle America Trench quite active as well. South America area, some newer movement with a 4-pointer there off the coast of Peru. Still seeing a swarm out there across the Ethiopia area. This is a continental rift boundary here. The Great Rift Valley, they call it. Looks like both of those from yesterday. I've seen a number of earthquakes out here around that region. But none after midnight so far today. Let's see what else we have. Mediterranean region, fairly quiet. Well, active, but nothing big going on there. A lot of older activity from yesterday in the red, darker pink colored line. Well, I don't know what color you want to call that. Light red, indicating older activity. Not a whole lot of progression there across the Java Trench. I was watching that 4.5 yesterday, late last night there. following all that large-scale movement across the western areas here of the Pacific Plate. Looked like that was going to advance across this way, but it did not. Just kind of came to a halt there with some spreading out earthquake activity across this region. Japan area. Yeah, let's see here. There's a number of 4s there, it looks like, around this area. Let's see if the EMSC is reporting that. Well, they have to be. Let me see the exact location. Hello. It's just a little slow. Kick this up here and see what we got. See, there's a couple earthquakes here. One right at the well, that's 10 kilometers deep. They're very shallow earthquake, but it is within that subduction zone of the Kumano Ridge. This is that area of land subduction zone that the Japanese government put out here recently for a megaquake warning due to all the seismic elevated activity here recently in the last few months. So that is showing some movement, but it's got some big time potential there for megaquake activity. And we're coming up upon that time period where the intervals between large events are just about due, like many areas here around the planet. All right, space weather activity, and then we'll check out, man, all the severe weather going on out in Texas and Louisiana right now. Holy smokes, a lot of activity. A little bit of M-flare movement overnight, nothing big. Looks like we're currently flaring with a C8.2 flare. That's coming off of this sunspot region. A number of sunspots out here, but I haven't seen anything that's really impressive yet in terms of seeing, maybe some solar storms here on the planet. Aurora activity. So things are fairly minimal right now. We do have a 20% chance there of an X-flare. Could pop off of any one of these sunspots out here. M-flare at 70, C-flare around 99% chance. And again, no auroras there in the forecast. Quick glance at the next 5 close approach asteroids here from the NASA.gov website. The ones that they're issuing out here. Shows a pretty close approach here for a 31-foot bus-size asteroid tomorrow. But it is coming within about 218,000 miles there, so, fairly safe. Earlier this year, we had an asteroid, very small one, come within about 12,000 miles. So this doesn't get me all excited until, it gets down within about 50,000 miles or so. And then we'll look at the orbital viewer and see how close this is really getting and the possibilities of any type of impact. But right now, things are pretty quiet in terms of close approach asteroids. Storm Prediction Center out here, we have just one category shy of the highest category you can get on the severe weather outlook. A moderate risk being reported out here across this area today. This is a no-joke kind of day because we're already getting tornado warnings and legit tornadoes being fired up across this area. So we still have all afternoon, early evening. Look at that area. That's a 15% chance hatched area, 10% surrounding that, 5%, and then 2%. That's a kind of a big deal here in December, end of December. So Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mobile, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi, Tuscaloosa, Lake Charles. Man, these guys are under some severe big-time threats here today. There's already been a number of tornadoes being reported out there today. Here's the 28th. Most of them in eastern Texas. So far, 6 reports of tornadoes. Now that severe weather is shifting a little bit further to the east. Got to be on guard out here, folks. Aside from the tornado threat, we do have some wind threats there with a 45% chance there. That's a pretty big deal of seeing some high inflow or outflow type of wind from these storms that are firing up. Or you could get some straight line winds from a series of storms that may be out there. So that's a big deal. That wind can do just as much damage, maybe not as damaging as a tornado would, but as a broad scale it can. Hail, big time hail out there as well. Not a day to be, having a picnic out there. Got tornado signatures all over the place. The current warnings here show 3 tornado warnings as of right now, and it's been fluctuating between 4 to 5 all morning out here as that line advances to the east. Got these storms already firing up ahead of the line. That's when the severe weather is going to get going. So, guys, it's been going, but it's going to get worse here throughout the afternoon. Heads up in this area. Right now, tornado warnings in Louisiana, Jasper, Texas, Chambers, Texas. That's crazy, but a lot of potential out here of severe weather, and just got to make sure you have your weather radio on today, folks. Or if not that, at least have your local news on, watching the weather. Get a weather app such as the radar scope. I use this on my computer. I also use it on my phone when I'm out storm chasing. It's free, but if you wish to have the paid version, that allows a little bit more features out here, and it's kind of cool. I pay for the full version on both my computer and my cell phone, and it's pretty neat. You can watch the storms as they advance to your area. It shows tornado warnings and whatnot, and signatures. These signatures are picked up by the weather program itself, indicating rotation within that storm, and it may not necessarily be a tornado, but that does show rotation with the thunderstorms out there. Tornado warnings are going to be right here in the red. And it's a big deal out there, folks. I got all the Storm Prediction Center categories here on the radar, and you can take those off or add them. I just like to look at it. So this red area right here is that main 15% chance of some big-time tornado activity out here today. So we're just getting into the environment where that's going to start taking place. Watch these storms that fire up ahead of it. They're mainly the ones that tend to stay solo, and they get the rotation going on, and then you can get some big-time big-time tornado activity from that, from these little discrete cells. So just a heads up, folks. Stay safe out there. That's going to be a big deal today. As we look at the weather models, down here, of course, going to be getting hammered with that weather. California, a little bit more rainfall out here Saturday night into early Sunday morning. It's supposed to have a little bit of wind out here as well. I don't think the stream will go down, but you never know. Got 50-mile-per-hour gust up here expected outside of my neck of the woods here in Chico, California. After that, the pattern changes here as we get into the early 2025 time period. I can't believe it. A lot of colder air dipping down from the north here. And that is primarily due to a high-pressure system that's going to be set up out here across the west, allowing that cold air to dip down with the jet stream across this area of the country, bringing in some cold, bitter temperatures out there, making it feel a lot like winter. And as of right now, and I hope that changes because I'm not a high-pressure fan out here. That keeps our area dry. And I don't want it. It's supposed to be winter. We're supposed to have rain. We're supposed to have snow in the mountains. There's no need for 65 degrees here in January. I'll take the cold over 65 degrees. That's just me, though. I'm a weather guy. So hopefully this changes, but it looks like to the mid-January time period, still got that high pressure out here parked in the, right over Yellowstone area, bringing that cold air down here across the eastern portion of the country. Some snow, limited snow, but there'll be some snow flying out there, dry out in the west coast. All right, folks, seismograph stations here look pretty quiet, aside from a couple spikes, as I noted, on Petrolia, down in Southern California as well. The rest of the graphs here pretty quiet for now. Stay on guard, be safe out there, no matter where you're at, especially down there across the areas of the south today with that severe weather threat. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Have a good one.